Welcome to the Action Shooting Show. Tonight we have Mike Ford with us. We have Mark Ribke, Ryan Dixon, myself, and we're going to do hopefully kind of a quick one. We want to do a little more gear-related episode, and that's going to be our, we're going to say rifle build for the action shooting sports. So as always, we'd love to hear your comments. If you want to comment in the videos, if you want to send us emails, stuff in Facebook, wherever you see us, we'd love to hear from you. It also helps the algorithm so other people can find us. So if you think this is valuable information, help other people, and maybe give it a like and a share. So all that mumbo jumbo aside, let's get started. So I think the first thing we're going to do, we're each going to kind of go around. I'll let Mike go, and then we'll have Mark go, and then I'll kind of finish it off on each one. And we'll just kind of go through each section. So what we're going to do is the beginning, we're going to say what sport/purpose theory behind the build. So each of us will go over this rifle build. What's our goal with it? So Mike, you want to start off?
Yep, had to get the right button.
I thought we were just doing general. We're all doing general.
Well, we'll just basically, but just.
Well, no, I'm just saying, because we could talk about a whole different thing if we're not talking general. Are you saying like this is our competition gun?
Each person's going to talk about what this build is going to be to them. So if you want to do a general, that's fine. Mike can. Each person, I just want to give everyone a context for what each particular person's talking about when they're talking about a gun, like what its use would be.
All right. This is actually just to test your editing ability, because there was a long pause where you're waiting for Mike, and then I cut into this whole thing that's extra. So it's a perfect place for you to work on a break, because you're going to see that break, and then Mike's going to, when we say like, okay, go back into it, Mike's just going to pick up, and you're just going to splice that part out.
I'm just going to leave
We're doing it live.
I'm going to leave this section. I'm going to leave this section in so that you look like an asshole.
I'm not. No, this is a serious question, because I already look like an asshole. But no, because I thought we were just doing all the same thing, like all just a 3-gun.
Probably. But
what
I will
if
say
I want to do like a night vision 10.5 inch?
Then tell people that.
Well, I'm going to just tell everybody that Mike's wrong about everything. And that. All right, we'll just do a general.
Tell that to the plaque.
Yeah, I don't believe that. That's gamer stuff.
All right, Mike, back to where we were 2 minutes ago.
All right, so my build tonight, I'm going to be focusing on, I'm going to reach in the safe and grab a rifle. And I'm going to use that for 3-gun, running gun, defensive stuff, like the Team Ruck match that Ryan and I did. So I am going to kind of hunt the general purpose rifle tonight. This is my I can only have one. So, you'll bear with me. There's definitely going to be some stuff that like, hey, that's not perfect for 3-gun. That's kind of silly, or, why are you doing that type moments. But keep in mind at the same time, like a lot of these modern guns, there's a certain level of simple modularity. So just because I pick this and I can add this feature to it doesn't mean that, hey, at this match, I can QD it off. I don't have to have it on, but the rifle is perfectly acceptable to have it. And this is why. So that's kind of going to be the outline. I don't know what the other guys are going to choose to build in their mind, but that's where I'm going from.
I'm guessing Mark's going to do a general purpose rifle, but why don't you tell us?
I guess I'll do, I don't know. I don't want to do the same as Mike, but yeah, we could do a general purpose rifle. I'll do a 3-gun and run and gun general purpose rifle. That's what we'll do.
Okay. And I'm basically the same idea as these guys. I think there's going to be some similarities. I think there may be some differences here. I'm curious to see, right now, if we were to build it, what we would do. I will probably go with, I don't want to say budget as in like, this is going to be the cheapest rifle you can build, but budget is in like, I'm not going to spare any expense. I will let Mike do that. I know some things Mike would pick that, like, if I had all the money, I would pick the same thing, but that's, budget is usually a concern for people. So that's kind of where I'll be going from. So let's just start off right off the bat. Caliber. What are we going with? Are we sticking with the tried and true 5.56? Or are we going to go to 6 arc, 6.5 Grendel? Like, what's the goal? Mike?
All right. So, no shock. I'm probably going to go with a 5.56. And just my quick reasoning behind it is, as much as I love the cartridges that are coming out, like Grendel and Arc, and I'm really curious to see what this 6 Max that is kind of hitting the market right now and getting heavily advertised, what's going to happen with that cartridge. But from my standpoint, I can do a lot with a 5.56. I can run a match round and get out to 700 yards pretty easily, maybe farther depending on my barrel length. It's very economical to reload or purchase bulk ammo for. I'm going to get pretty decent barrel life. And the big thing is I'm going to be able to practice, not just use it in matches, but I'm going to be able to go practice. And also for magazines, it's, there's way less feeding issues with 5.56 carbine. So that's my general thought there. And then I'll just plan that, hey, it's a 55 grain, stage, or, hunt or whatever, or it's a 69 or a 77 open tip match, based on what I need to do. So I'll let you guys kind of chime in. Without Tiger, I doubt we'll see anything crazy.
Mike, the other thing I had with this, I forgot. Upper and lower choice. What do you, for your first two kind of pieces of gear, what do you choose in upper and lower wise?
Okay, I'll jump on that real quick. First choice right now would be probably a BCM ThermoFit upper, a new actual new one, or one of the Blims. I've used their Blims and they still work fine. And then for the lower, first choice would be the LMT Mars. If you get one that's machined properly, it's got some real advantages in competitive shooting, being able to lock the bolt back and do a lot of stuff, and not have to pull your fire control hand off to support. So that's probably my first choice lower. Second choice lower to go with that upper would probably be like the ADM version. Little heavier billet. Both of those are on the pricier side. I'd be perfectly fine also grabbing like an Arrow forged lower, something like that. So that's kind of my three, but yeah, the ThermoFit forged upper from BCM I don't see any reason to deviate for that for this build. And first choice would be the LMT Marzell. So
yeah, that makes sense. That's kind of what I figured you were going to pick. I wasn't sure about the upper, but I figured the LMT lower. That seems to be the best ambi lower on the market right now. So Mark, what are you doing?
All right, I'm going regular lower, either Poverty Pony, PSA with some goofy roll mark, or Arrow if you want to be classy. I don't like ambi stuff, and I understand that there is an advantage in some situations, but I like just basic. And then for upper, I've never really felt like an upper buys you that much, but I have a Gen 2 BCM, and I don't have that many, couple hundred rounds through it. And I want to see if that actually buys you something over time. So I'd maybe go with the Gen 2 BCM. They've got a little different cutout, and they've reinforced some areas and kind of changed the profile of things. So I would do that for my upper if I had to pick one. But otherwise, whatever you can get would be fine. And
is this the caliber?
Caliber. So I'd like to say 6 arc, but I already said I was going to do USPSA and 3-gun, 3-gun and run and gun, USPSA multi-gun, PCSL.
Whoever they are, they hate rifles. USPSA hates rifles, so
unless it's a 9mm rifle
and fun. And fun generally.
So the other reason I wouldn't go with 6 arc, even though I like it on paper, is I just don't have time behind it. I can't tell you, yeah, you should get this. It is the Wonder cartridge, because I just haven't shot it enough to tell you. I think in the future, 6 arc or 6 max is going to be the way to go. But at this point, I can't recommend it. I would stick with 5.56 for now. But yeah, that's where I'd go. So basic upper, basic lower, 5.56. I'll be in the middle ground if you want to go cheaper.
Okay. Well, I mean, there's, yeah.
Not a lot cheaper you can go.
there's not. I mean, you're saying, like Anderson or one of those like PSA. There's really nothing wrong with those, and I have some old Andersons kicking around. At this point, though, in time, like, Aero Precision and some of those like BCM, like the people get all up in arms over what tier something is, but like those are what I'd consider like a mid tier. Their quality control tends to be a little bit higher than, Sons of Liberty would be another one. Like the quality control is significantly higher than some of the really cheap ones, but you're not, in the grand scheme of things, you're not really paying too much extra. So for me, it's like, I would do an Aero lower. I think, and I don't have experience with it, so take this with a grain of salt. I think I'd consider the, what do they call it, the PDQ lower that they have. So I forget the name of the company. Someone makes a bolt catch that has a little paddle that comes out on the right side of the upper that you can use your finger to lock the bolt or drop the bolt. So it's definitely not as nice as like a LMT or something like that, but it's not much more than a regular Aero lower. You can get it with that already installed, and you have to mill out a little bit if you're doing it like aftermarket on a gun. I'm not a huge ambi fan, but as Mike said, being able to lock your bolt back without taking your hand off the firing grip is a pretty nice feature to have, especially in running gun. So that is probably what I would do lower wise. Upper, I'm with Mike. I'll probably do the BCM. I don't know the difference, but at this point, probably the Gen 2. And the big reason, as Mike said, it's a thermo-fit upper. For those that don't know, so the BCM, when you go to put your barrel journal into it, your receiver extension, the machining is a little undersized from that. So when you go to do that, you actually have to heat up your upper to expand the aluminum so that you can insert the barrel. And then when that cools down, it's actually going to shrink down and you're going to have a interference fit. So the reason you would want this is ideally you get a little more, a little better chance of good accuracy, because that's, everything is just tighter fit. There's no slop that you're trying to take up. On the far side of that, if there's a really sloppy fit between your receiver extension and your upper journal, the barrel could wobble around. So I think that generally is a good idea to have a tight fit up there. For guns that I haven't used that on, you can either use shim stock to fill that in, or Loctite makes a specific material for bedding. It basically, any real tight tolerance areas, it hardens up and under pressure. So that's another good way. There it is, Loctite 620. So me and Mike have both used that on a couple. Do not use blue Loctite, red Loctite, or don't use regular, like, hey, I went to the hardware store and got thread locker. This is specifically made for bedding stuff, generally pins and like fixtures and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I'd go with.
So also wobble's a strong way to put it. What you mean is it's harmonics, because it's not going to wobble. Yes. Your barrel's tight. You don't have to go and take apart your barrel right now. And
yeah, like, I said it in an extreme, but yeah. Yes, you're talking harmonics. You're going to have a tighter fit. In an AR, there are so many things that affect that. So if your barrel's not bedded and you have a good shooting gun, like, don't screw around with it. But if we're building this from scratch, that's some things me and Mike have experimented with and found, along with a whole bunch of other little things, this does seem to be value added. I didn't say at the beginning, I like these two guys. I would probably do 5.56. If I can find a benefactor to finance me, I actually would love to spend time with the 6x45 round, which no one seems to care about, but I think sounds like a really good idea for a competition round, but I don't have the time and the money to play around with that right now. So 5.56 until I get that benefactor, till that online money starts rolling in for things that all right. So next is barrel length, gas system length, and muzzle device. And we can throw handguard in here if there's something specific, kind of basically the front end of the gun here. What are you thinking, Mike?
All right. So I'm going to kind of work tip to butt here, as Grand Thumb likes to say. And so I'm going to start with the muzzle device. I like the option to be able to run a suppressor. And because of that, I'm going to look at a muzzle device that is compatible. So when I got into suppressors for QD options, Chemo or Surefire and Silencer Co. were kind of the three that really had something going on. And I ended up with the Dead Air Chemo. So I'm going to choose a muzzle device that's compatible with that. If I was going to start fresh, I might look at another option. But because of that, I'm probably going to go with a brake. And my reasoning is, if I'm doing things in the dark that I don't want flash, I can throw a K can on there or an S can, and it's going to cut down my flash signature. And also, the brake's going to act as a sacrificial baffle. And then if I'm at a match and I'm going super gamer, don't want the weight of a can, well, I probably want the muzzle to be as absolutely stable as possible. So, brake-wise, Forward Control has a nice little single port. Dead Air has their 3-port. The most effective, hands down, that I've used, though, is probably the Lantac Dragon. So that will be my first choice, and is going to be a Lantac Dragon for the muzzle device. And then moving back from there for barrel, I think we're going into barrels next, it's kind of a tough call for me. I would probably end up going with a 14.5 and penning that device. So it keeps me out of the NFA territory if I'm going to matches or having to go through states where NFA stuff is a problem. And with the right ammunition, it's still a 750 yard capable velocity. So going back to our favorite Marine is always throwing up some crazy times at Legion, 600 yards with like 12.5-inch guns. And so, hey, with the right bullet, you can do the work. So I think the sweet spot's going to be probably 14.5 for me. And that barrel would probably be one of the modern profile barrels, to maybe a slightly heavier, what you see on a lot of the recce type builds, like maybe a Criterion Core or a Criterion Hybrid profile. And then that be a mid-length gas system for me. So I feel like that's going to be the sweet spot for the softest shooting I can get with a 14.5-inch barrel. Probably first choice would be a nitrided finish, probably a 1-in-8, 1-in-7, 223 Wild or 5.56 chamber. And the reason I'm going to do the nitride, even though I've had really good luck with the Criterion Chrome line, is just the potential for accuracy is theoretically higher with a nitrided barrel over a chrome lined. And then you get the added durability that nitriding offers. And because this rifle is going to go out in the rain and the mud and the snow and everything else, it makes sense to pick that as a finish. So, yep. And there's a lot of good barrels out in that class. Forward Controls has a barrel out. You can get barrels like that from companies like Centurion and stuff. I'm probably going to go with Criterion, though, just because I've had multiple of their barrels. They OEM for a lot of companies, and I really don't think I could go wrong grabbing a 14.5 nitrided Criterion barrel. Am I doing handguard too, or are we just doing muzzle device barrel?
Yeah, handguard, and then also gas system. Do you care what length it is?
Yeah, mid length for the gas system, and the handguard I'm going to go with is probably going to be a M-LOK handguard, just to try to trim a little bit of weight off, and I'm probably going to go with a Geissele. Would be a pretty easy first choice for me. And the reason I'm doing that over like a Smokes composite carbon fiber or something goes into I want to be able to run night vision on this. And so I can grab a, number one choice Geissele, probably like number two BCM, or, maybe a Sons of Liberty handguard. And the reasoning for this is it's going to be a durable rail that I can run an IR system, a flashlight. I can throw a bipod on it if the match requires. And, with the right model, I'm not going to get a bunch of flex, but I'm not going to have a ton of weight like it breaks my heart to say a quad rail would do. So that's kind of my first option there. And I'd probably run it at like a 13.5 inch handguard. So it gets me real close to the end of the muzzle. So I don't end up with a ton of shadow, and that's going to be kind of the sweet spot for my arm reach range. So I think that sums me up with muzzle device, barrel, and handguard. So I'm going to pass it off to the next guy.
All right, I'm going to go a little different. I'm going to go 18 inch, and I'm going to go stainless barrel, and I'm going to do rifle gas, and then I'm not going to ever put a can on it. I'm going to do just a true muzzle brake. And I've used the Lantec Dragon. I think they're great. There might be slightly better ones out there, but I want at least a 3-port brake and holes in the top as well. And then I think I'm going to do adjustable gas too. And I'm going to tune it to the loads I'm using, and then I'm going to let it carbon lock and just be happy with that. And then I'm going to do either M-LOK, or I would go straight tube, but I kind of like the look of a top rail. So I probably won't go straight tube for the handguard, but I'd do a 15 inch, mostly for looks. And then all I really need is for it to have either a chunk of ARCA or some way to put a bipod on it for run and gun. And then I don't ever plan on putting night vision stuff or front sight or any of that on there. So I want it to be clean and lightweight. Lightweight isn't a big deal, but and then for the barrel profile,
the Coda, if you don't mind not having a top rail,
they'd just be for style points. Yeah.
Well, the Coda's pretty light, so with an 18 inch barrel, I mean, I've got a 18 inch stainless. What you're telling me, I've got in the safe right now, and the 15 inch Coda is like a pretty solid choice for something like that. Or as Mike said, like a Smokes composite or someone like that.
This seems possibly like a shameless plug.
I've not really, I'm not throwing out discount codes yet. But I'm just,
Yeah. So what else leave me? Profile, I would do at least government, if not medium. I don't think I'd go heavier than a medium. Every different barrel manufacturer calls theirs profiles different things. So I'd say not a heavy, but somewhere stiffer than lightweight. I think that's everything.
Right. I'm assuming rifle length gas, like 18 inch. There's no.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's a solid choice. If you're not running a can, if you don't plan on running a can like Mark's saying, like, man, 18 inch with, and if you're worried about the length, like if you were worried about the length, say 18 inch with like a 1-port or 2-port brake, something that's just a little bit shorter. You're not really much longer than a 16 inch, practicality wise, but man, you pick up some velocity, and I'm a big fan of an 18 inch gun. So I think that's smart. So, all right. On the flip side, I'm going to go in a little bit different direction. So I'm going to say, I've already got an SBR lower sitting at home. So forget NFA or not dealing with NFA stuff. I'm going to deal with it. And maybe this is controversial. I think I'm gonna go like a 13.7 or a 13.9, which I realize is almost 14 and a half, but I'm gonna go with a some kind of 2-port breakup, probably the Reardon 2-point break. Mike, can you mute yourself?
Sorry, I didn't mean to jangle the brass. This new speaker is a little more sensitive.
So I'm gonna go with a 13.7, 13.9 with a 2-port break from Reardon, so I can run my suppressor on it. The reason is I've got a 12.5 right now, which I do love, and the 12.5 is a very, very convenient, nice size. Your handguard really, if you go to add things on, night vision stuff, flashlight, it really does fill up kind of quickly. It's certainly doable. Obviously, they were doing it with, 10.5s and 10.3s or whatever, but, that's their whole reason for forward grips and stuff like that. I mean, you really do start running out of handguard. So I think I do that like 13.7 with a 13-inch handguard, as long as I could get 13, just long enough that I can still put a can on there and everything. Mid-length gas. I'm probably going to do a little bit on the thicker side. That I know a couple companies make a 13.7 with like a pretty thick profile going down. I think I want to do that just again, like this is a short, fat, accurate barrel. So barrel whip should be pretty minimal. And, ideally, probably a 223 wild chamber, because that's what a lot of them do. I don't know that it's that big of a deal over like a regular 5.56, but I'm kind of aiming this towards like I want to get as much accuracy out of this package as I can. Handguard, pretty close to what Mike said. Full pick rail on top, M-lock on the sides. The like Hodge style, the Sons of Liberty makes a couple barrels that have like the wedge lock. I've got one of those on another gun. Like if I found one in the right length, I'd probably look at that. Maybe a BCM. Just I'm not real picky about handguards, but as Mike said, I just want it to be pretty stiff. I don't want it to be super lightweight and floppy. It's got to be able to hold zero if I toss like a illuminator / laser on it for night shooting. So that's probably what I'd pick. So a little bit shorter than the other two, but not quite 12.5 because I've run into some situations where the 12.5 was just a little too short for like shooting off barricades or improvised positions. I would have liked to have had an extra inch, which is the story of my life. So next up here, let me get my list out. So we will go into let's say optics choice next. So what are we throwing on the top of this? This should be interesting from Mike, but I think I probably have an idea what he's going to do.
All right, so for a 5.56 gun, general, do it all, I am probably going to take first choice. Since money is no object, it would be probably an ATAC or 1-8. That would be the first choice is the optic that would go on it. That being said, I would take one of my Razor 1-10s or an NX8 1-8 with the new, was it DMX reticle or whatever. I'll be perfectly happy probably with any of those. They would get it done. I'd put it in probably a Geisley or a Reptilla mount, and then I would piggyback on top of that a Aimpoint Acro. And so I've got my main optic that gets me to 700-800 yards, and then on top I've got something for close up and that's night vision compatible for passive aiming. So that takes care of that. And then I know it's not optic, but I'm just going to toss this out there because I got it on one of my guns and I need to grab some more because they're pretty handy. The Knight's Armament bubble rail that clamps right on the top of the rail. You can put it right below the objective bell of your scope. And then when you're taking that 700, 800 yard shot, it gives you a quick glance of, hey, yep, gun is pretty close to level to earth. Those things aren't perfect. Not every upper, is going to be machine perfect. But if you're sitting on the side of a hill in Pennsylvania, I guarantee you what you think level is probably not even close. And so just having something that'll get you within a couple degrees of level is pretty awesome. So that kind of sums up my optic. And then, of course, it's not technically an optic, or do you want to go into like lights, laser stuff later?
Yeah, you can add them in here.
All right. So then probably first choice is probably like a full power Steiner, or one of the new fancy Wilcox, or some sort of full power quality IR system that gives me a Viz and IR laser that's slaved together and a good illuminator. If I have to go Civi power, then it's probably going to be the D-ball, the Steiner D-ball D2 or something like that. And then for a flashlight, if it's going to be used for night vision, then probably one of the dual output Surefires. If it's only going to be a white light gun, then I'll throw a Cloud on it. But because options abound, probably going to do Surefire just because it gives me that IR capability. So that gives me my aiming stuff, because I know you were talking scopes originally, but if it's going to be a general purpose gun, I want to be able to do general purpose things with it.
Absolutely. And that's obviously, as we said before, this stuff can come on and off. There's nothing saying he can't throw the laser on when he needs it. And if he's going to be all out during the day, there's no reason to carry around. I mean, if he's got a D2 on there, I've seen those in person. That's a chunky brick that you probably don't want to carry around a course if you don't have to. So
yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of why the full power stuff is obviously first choice, even though it can be more cost prohibitive and harder to get your hands on. Is just it slims down what's on the front, and like the civilian power, like malls and stuff are prohibitively expensive. So
yes. Mark, how about you?
All right, I'm going with at bare minimum a Razor 1-6. I would do a 1-8, but you'd have to spend at least $1,000 on it. Like I would say for this gun, the floor for optics would be $1,000. I wouldn't go up to a 1-10 for this gun for me, because this is just a game and gun for 3-gun and run and gun. And I don't think the juice is necessarily worth the squeeze. 3-gun rules currently, you can only run one optic still, I think is the case, right, Ryan? Or at least at your matches?
If it's in TAC Ops, yes.
Yeah.
If you want to go full open, then you can throw 20 of them on there if you want. I mean, those guys like their red dots.
Right. So I'd stick to just, let's say, a 1-6 or a 1-8, and I would do either a lightweight arrow mount, because they're great and they're cheap and they're light, or I would consider like a Warren, something beefier, because that wouldn't hurt on this rifle. And then if I was really excited about a run and gun and I wanted to have an extra dot, I would put some sort of closed emitter on a 45-degree mount, like either a Hollow Sun or I wouldn't do an acro, definitely not an acro, but you could do like an H1. It could be possibly out on the handguard. But I've never used that. Yeah, totally. He's acting like he doesn't know. This is classic Global War on Terror setup stuff.
Not out on the handguard, dear Lord, please.
Well, you know what I mean. Right in front of the handguard. But yeah, we're sticking slick because this is a gamer gun, and we're doing a 1-6 or a 1-8, and no backup irons, no flashlights, no lasers, none of that stuff. We're just looking to shoot 3-gun and run and gun. So that's what I'm sticking to.
That's a good choice. So here's my other, maybe this will be controversial. I'll say first, I'm definitely on Mike's train of thought on as far as low power variable optics. And the experimenting I've done in 10X and all these different, the 1 to 8 seems like the practical sweet spot for a low power variable optic. 1 to 8 is still very usable. Because physics, the eye box does get a little bit tight on an 8, but not as tight as it seems to be on like full power, 10 power on a 1 to 10. So I do think the package of a lot of the 1 to 8s on the market is a nice middle ground to that. But I think on this I would probably go medium power variable optic, which maybe is an odd choice. I know Mark's laughing at me now. So like
only because you went short. You went with this compact gun, and now
I know, but I like to be able to see. So
if you have to.
And the medium power variable optics are a little bit bigger, but weight wise, they're not that much different than a lot of the. So maybe I've got the Athlon Helios, which is pretty affordable. There's some features on it, some things that I'm not 100% sold on. Like if they tweak that design just a little, it'd be perfect. Trijicon makes a Credo 2 to 12 that seems to hit all the buttons, but I haven't tried it personally yet. So 2 to what's that? Mike's saying. So I it's 2 to something like that, 2 to 14 maybe, but. And I can't read Mike's.
2 to 10. 2 to 10.
Pretty sure they also have a 2 to 12, but maybe not. But there's also the primary arms 2.5 to 10 or something like that. I would get something in that range right there. I think that's a really practical area to be in for a gun like this, just to do everything. I would also do the piggyback top dot. That gives me a backup optic if I need it, but it also allows me to shoot passively with night vision shooting. So if you're going to have an LPVO on a gun like that, yes, I'm still going to want to put some kind of illuminator laser on there. I can't speak to that. I've only played around with mics. I don't have enough research and experience to say, yeah, this is, I mean, the D2s actually they're expensive and they're ginormous, but everyone I've talked to has really said they're probably one of the best options if you can't do full power. There are some other smaller, maybe I'd do I've thought about like the Holosun 321 and then like a Vampire Scout, like the dual output scout light on the side. So I've got my white light if I need white light, I've got IR if I need the IR, and I've got a laser and illuminator on there, so maybe that's what I would go with. And then like I said, if I didn't go with the medium power, it would just be probably the Credo 1 to 8 at this point. I think that's one of the better options in the 1 to 8. So but again, some kind of probably enclosed emitter top dot. I'd have to look through a couple of them with night vision and see like what makes the most sense. I'm just got into night vision, got my first PVS 14, so I'm not real competent on like what are the great choices in those. So next we will hit kind of the back of the gun here, and we will say like buffer assembly stuff. So what buffer tube, what length, all that stuff. Anything special with the buffer, you're going to just go to a traditional one or like a silent captured spring. And then what buttstock are you putting on the back of this? Mike, you want to start us off here?
Yeah, I can jump on that. So the buttstock and buffer tube and buffer system, I'm going to go with an A5 and probably run the also well-loved H2 with a green Springco spring. I feel like that's a really good balance. A lot of my guns have liked it. Doesn't matter if it's a 11.5 DI or 18-inch DI. It seems like it covers a really wide operating window with suppressor on, suppressor off, all different temperatures and different ammo. So no complaints there. I'll probably actually use the Voltor tube for that system as well. And then stocks are something that I don't think I've found anything that I really have fallen head over heels for yet. But Voltor has a version of, I think it's their E-Mod, their storage one, that it's just a simple little club foot on the bottom, but there's no storage. So it's a little bit lighter, a little bit smaller, but it still gives you more bag rider than like a SOP mod style stock. So I'd probably end up putting that on there. And then I can still put like a cleaning kit in the battery tube and stuff like that, but I don't have a ton of extra plastic on that stock that I don't need. And then probably toss a BCM or some sort of QDN plate. I don't really use them, but it's nice to have the option. And then maybe like a Ford Controls Castle nut if I got the choice, but a mil-spec one's just fine. And that kind of wraps up my stock and buffer choice. Tip for those who hate stock rattle or slop is you can take a small piece of 100-mile-per-hour tape, duct tape, whatever your tape of choice is, and if you put a very small strip of it on the tube, it will give some friction. So you're not going to be adjusting that stock in and out in a hurry. It's, you're going to be able to move it if you need to. It's going to take a little bit of force, but it removes the rattle and slop, which I always find super distracting and super frustrating. So, yep, I think that covers it for me. Also, Voltor, I know you're not anti-rotation sockets in. Please, pretty please. All right, that's it.
All right, I'm going rifle buffer because I got a rifle set up. And then I'm going to do probably like a CTR or an STR, even though they won't extend all the way in with a rifle buffer. But I never run mine all the way in. I don't think you can go all the way in with a CTR on a rifle buffer, can you?
You can't. Rifle buffers aren't adjustable.
Can't you? You can. Somebody makes one, doesn't they?
I've never seen one.
Oh, maybe I've never seen mistaken on that. I thought you could.
So, if you want the longer,
then you gotta go A5. Okay.
Then you gotta go A5.
I'd still go with rifle. Then we'll go with the fixed stock. That's fine. I would do. What about that one stock where it's like clamped on? I think Mike has that. You can do that on a rifle. What's it stock with like the cheap thing that's adjustable in the back? Yeah.
Oh no, that's
no.
Can't you do that?
That's the XLR, but that's a carbine tube. Or even. You know what? I'd have to look. I can't remember if the Cole Components one that I have is a rifle tube, and I had to put the plastic spacer in, but I think the internal length on that is a carbine. I don't know unless I walk and pull a gun out of a safe that's buried and that I haven't shot for 4 years and find out. So sorry, folks, probably not going to get an answer to that tonight.
If you don't want the adjustability, you can do the Ace, which is just like they've got the Ace like that. Which the one I have on my gun is the Luth AR. That's the plastic. It gives you adjustability. It's fairly light if that's kind of what you're concerned with. The downside is that it's being a lot of plastic. Like if you have to mortar it in a match, you're probably going to break something. So,
right. So this shows that this is just my hypothetical rifle, and I've never shopped for a rifle buffer. But I would go. Yeah, I like a little bit adjustable in and out, but I don't need to go super close.
Then just go with the A5 because you're almost out of rifle. Yeah, you're almost out of rifle length, but you've got adjustability. You get a little bit. It's the middle.
Right. And since I said I was going to do adjustable gas, I would do the lightest spring. I could get it to run, lightest buffer, and you could maybe do silent capture. That'd be fine. You can play with those springs too. But yeah, so nothing fancy. I said the STR just because with a gun like that, you might for USP or sorry, for 3-gun only, you may want to add weight to the stock to change the balance a little bit. And with the battery tubes, Mike's going to use them practically. I'd fill them full of lead, and then you'd get better balance. But I wouldn't do that on a run and gun. I think I would do it just for 3-gun.
That sounds like a good option. If you did go silent captured, I'll tell people though, you probably might as well just go with the carbine stock, because as far as I know, the silent capture, if you use it in a rifle length, you've got to put a spacer back there. So you just kind of negate the extra length of the tube. So if you go silent capture, then just do the carbine. But if you're going with more traditional, like go rifle or A5 or something like that. So yeah, I will go with the A5 because I'm going to be running a suppressor. Me and Mike have built a couple guns now with carbine and with the A5. The A5 seems to just open up your operating window a little bit when you're running suppressed and unsuppressed. So, and then whatever buffer weight I need to run the gun, depending on your load that you're shooting, your, whatever the gas port size is. I like the Sprinco green springs when I'm running the A5 system. So I've never been a real picky person as far as parts, but I've kind of come to love the BCM Mod 1. So that's the adjustable stock, but it's kind of like what Mike's talking about. You got a little flat section on the back, which if I'm shooting using rear bags, having a little flat section to have that bag ride on or sit on is nice. If it just comes down to a point, it's really hard to get that in there. It can recoil weird. So I've had good luck with those. We didn't talk about grip. I don't know if anyone here, I don't really care what grip I have. I've got a bunch of A2 with the finger groove cut off of them, or finger nub cut off. So I don't really care. Use whatever grip. I think my last 2 builds have had the BCM, one of the BCM grips on it. Like they're fine.
I just like straight up and down. I'm getting to like less angle as I go at this point, but not all the way straight up and down, but less angled than A2.
That's common. I really don't care at all, but some people are more picky about it.
Yeah, I've kind of gravitated to the Magpul Myad or whatever it's called. Just I like that I can set it up and kind of get the dimensions correct for my hand, where I feel like
Hobbit, small Hobbit hands.
You'd be surprised I'm not running the smallest backstrap. But yeah, that's. But it's one of those things of, you could hand me original Magpul MOE and I could run it and it wouldn't bother me. I still got BCM grips. I just can't seem to stand. Yeah, I'd say probably the only grip that I've grabbed that I really can't stand is the A2s or the original military and ergo grips. Just can't handle that weird grip.
Yeah, with the finger nub cut off, the A2s are fine for me, but that little groove on there is like right where my other finger wants to be. So we're getting close to the end here. We're gonna say trigger, because we didn't talk about that yet. What trigger are we putting in? And are there any other accessories, additions, something that we haven't mentioned yet that you go, man, this gun absolutely needs this to be comfortable for me?
BCG and charging handle. We got to cover those.
Yeah, add that in this section, because that's an important piece. Some more important than others, but yeah, add it in.
All right, I'll start bottom to top then and cover the internal parts, and then the guys can tackle. So right by that grip, I'm gonna go with a Geissele Super Dynamic Enhanced. That's my favorite. I've definitely fallen in love with the 2-stage. I like the flat trigger, but I'm perfectly capable of using the traditional curved trigger bow too. So Geissele would be first choice. If I can get my hands on a Geisley, probably the Schmidt trigger that is made and rebranded a lot. I've got a couple of those that have been really nice, or the LaRue. That would be a really good option as well. So that covers the trigger. For the safety, I haven't got my hands on one yet, so it's really hard for me to like recommend it. But I really would like to try the Ford Controls safety that they partnered with Sons of Liberty to do. What they did with that makes a lot of sense to me. I don't like that some of the Radians, and I've seen some old Radians fail where the detent slips and safety goes spinning around and locks the gun up. So I've still got some of those floating around. Not a huge fan of having them on guns anymore, though. And I've got some old Battle Arms Development ambies that they're still ticking, even though I've had to actually swap detents out because I've used them so much. I rounded the detents on them. But yes, I would like to try that. Ford Controls. Bolt carrier group. So I played around with a lot of different ones over the years. And it's like, in terms of affordable bomb-proof option, the RCA, and yeah, I'm friends with some of the guys at RCA, so I'll throw that disclaimer out there. Their nitrated bolt carrier group is pretty amazing. I've put a ton of rounds on it without cleaning. I took a rifle and shot it for several years without cleaning, and kind of gave up on that project though when I did a Legion and it got so wet it washed the gunk out of the gun. And it just kept running. I just kept adding lube. And it's the bolt, the cam pin, the gas rings, everything are way past when you're supposed to change them. And I finally went ahead and pulled that out of rotation, though, is my primary gun. So, or primary bolt carrier group in my heaviest used gun. But so, yeah, RCA. I use the Lantac enhanced. The nitrided one is pretty decent as well if you're dealing with a lot of cans. It does a pretty good job of dumping the excess gas forward out the ejection port away from the shooter. Right now I'm running a Ford Controls NP3 one just to have an opinion on NP3 coated ones. And it seems like it's a nice bolt carrier group so far, but I don't really have an opinion on it yet. I haven't done an ungodly torture test on it like I've done with RCA stuff. So, sometimes when you're trying to build that one rifle that's going to do it all, you got to go and grab what's been there the longest and done the craziest things with you. And so I guess my ride or die is RCA on that. So that's the bolt carrier group. Now for charging handle to go with it. Right now, I'm pretty happy with the, I think it's it's Ford Controls. I can't remember what they call it, but it reminds me of kind of the old PRI gas busters, but with a lower profile latch. And so it seems to be really good with keeping the gas out and like lubricant blowback out of the shooter's face running cans. If you can't get one of those, because I know there's the weird drop culture and people that have to flash their Ford Controls even though they never use them, then just go get yourself a Geisley. The Geisley small latch is a pretty bomb-proof version that also does a really good job of keeping gas and lube out of the shooter's face. So those are kind of my charging handles that I'm in love with right now. So I think that kind of covers the internals for me. So go ahead and take it away, Mark.
All right. So I'm going to go with so I have a Hyperfire single stage that I really like. So I would do either that or I'd do a Geisley single stage for my trigger. Like I said earlier, I don't like ambi safeties. And so I just do a regular safety. And I would definitely not do 45. I'm not a fan of that either. And then bolt carrier group, I don't have a favorite brand or anything, but since I'm going a tuned race gun, I would do a lightweight bolt carrier group. And then charging handle, I like the old BCM medium style, but they changed it in the new one where there's a split where it should be gas busting. And so for this rifle, it wouldn't matter, but I wouldn't recommend it for if you're running it on a can. But yeah, just some sort of medium latch Charging handle, again, that doesn't have to be ambi for me either. Just the left side's fine. So nothing too fancy there, but kind of specific to my gamer gun.
Yeah, absolutely. So pretty similar to Mike. I'm a two-stage fan. I'd probably just say for this, because we're going like a little bit less, the LaRue MBT2 is like a phenomenal trigger. I've got it in a rifle. It's not as good as a Geissele, and I absolutely love like the Geissele. So if I could find it, if I'm building this and I can find a deal, it's around one of the holidays, maybe I'd get like a Blim Geissele SAE, that's kind of middle of the road. Because you can sometimes find those for $140 when they're Blims or whatever, and you're close to 100 for the MBT, so just spend the 40 extra or whatever. Charging handle, probably like I think it's the Geissele, is it the Airborne or something like that? Mike was saying they make one that's a little bit smaller latches on it, so that would be my top choice. The regular Geisle's are fine, as well. So I wouldn't really care either way on those. I mean, if push comes to shove, I've got guns with mil-spec still. So, but with suppressors and stuff, and there's definitely a good argument to be made about some of the more enhanced, like more modern designs than like a standard mil-spec, because they're pretty minimal as far as
the issue
material.
is they bend more than anything.
Yes, yes.
The gas in your face is one, but you can bend them a lot easier than the more advanced designs.
Yeah. Granted, I've never bent one, but they have bent. That is a point of weakness. So to Mark's point, like just get rid of that if you can. So not surprisingly, me and Mike shoot a lot together. We both were friends with the RCA people. They, Jeffrey Larson has treated us well. So I've got a bunch of their stuff in my guns, and it's always worked, and it's always worked for people I talk to. So that's what I'd run. Full mass, plain Jane, RCA. On the flip side, their nitride treatment on it, like black nitride treatment, when you go to clean it, on the rare occasions I clean my gun, it pretty well just wipes off with a rag. Like it is nice for that. So anything else, for safeties, Geissele actually makes, and I'm not a big Geissele fan in general because some of their stuff's more expensive than I think it should be, but they have an ambi safety that looks like a mil-spec safety, which has the mil-spec kind of look and feel of the thumb lever, but on the off side, the kind of ambi side, it's really, really small. Like it's one of the smallest ones that when I went looking for ambi safeties that I could find, because I don't use it a ton, but I do want it there if I'm shooting like left-handed or something like that. I want to be able to use that at times. So having the smallest little nub over there is fine for what I do with it. So I'd probably, I don't know the model number on that, but I don't like a lot of the different shapes that some of the aftermarket levers have. Like the mil-spec, that's one thing I think they did right. The shape and form of that safety is perfect for what I do. So that's what I would do. So the last section, and I think this will be quick because I'd like to wrap this up pretty soon. One more thing. Sorry. One more thing I would add is, I know I've talked about it on another, a gear episode, but a, handbag, shooting bag, like the, why did I just forget the name of it? I've got the sticker over there. Running guns. The RNG
Running gun
tactics. Yeah, running gun tactics steady rest. Just it's real small, fairly lightweight. Kind of put it down towards your lower, and it's got little kind of poly-filled pylons that you can rest on when you're shooting off of barricades and stuff. Doesn't add a lot of weight. It doesn't add a whole lot. I'm pretty much been putting those on every one of my guns and been very, very happy with it. So last section, Mike, we'll kind of do this quick, but are there any weaknesses or concerns we have with these guns? Because we said we got a specific thing. We think like it'll do most of what we want, but like, what is it maybe that we would be worried about with this gun before before we cut this off, just so people have an idea, like, well, why don't you have a gun like this? Why doesn't everyone use a gun like this? So, Mike, what do you think?
The big thing is if you end up into a lot of matches where you want more velocity to fight wind, because the short barrels can be extremely accurate, but what you start losing is velocity, and so you end up having to hold more and more wind at distance. So obviously, if you end up in more of a DMR SPR role, the 14.5 is not going to be as optimized as like an 18-inch or a 20-inch barrel. But as a whole, I think it's a pretty good package. So that there's probably a weak spot, and I invite the guys when it's their turn to nitpick my build, because I'm getting ready to nitpick theirs a little bit. I think Ryan's did a pretty good job with his build. I think that it's kind of a weird option for like the barrel length and stuff. Why not just go a little bit farther and just do the 14.5? You can still Form 1 that. Part of the incentive to me to do a 14.5 over is I'm not paying the $200 and putting the gun on a list, which I think that while many of us own NFA items, at the same time, we wouldn't want to put all our eggs in one basket. So if it's the only gun that I have, I would not do a Form 1 gun. Marks is going to be a lot of fun, and it'll probably do everything that we want to do. But still, man, that's going to be a javelin if you actually put a suppressor on it. But other than that, I think that we picked a fairly, even though it's a diverse set of parts and kind of what we think might be ideal, these guns really, you could go do a night vision match with any of them. You could go do some sort of, DMR match with any of them at 600 or 700 yards, because ultimately, if this is the gun that you built that you feel like you are going to be best served by, and you actually put the time into practice with it, you're going to be pretty good with it. You're going to find that ammo that it shoots well and it's reliable. So I don't know. I think pretty happy with how this project turned out tonight, and I look forward to see what gripes the guys have with mine.
All right. So the big downside to mine is people are going to be like, did you get in a time machine and go to 3-Gun Nation in 2015? Because this is the gun that everyone's carrying. So that would be the one I'd have to take.
The AP. Then you need the AP Customs carbon fiber handguard.
Right.
That would be the 9. Yeah.
I can't say anything because I love GWAT stuff, and if we're going back in the time machine, I can't make fun of him for climbing in it too.
Right. So that'd be the one. It's kind of an out-of-date idea to run an 18-inch gun with everything lightened and, race gun. Some people still do it, but we've kind of gotten away from that. The biggest, that, like Mike said, it's a long gun. It's kind of heavy. And the other thing is I've sacrificed some reliability to have lightened parts and to tune things, because I want it to run just like a raped ape. I want it to be super zero recoil and everything run as smooth as possible. So I may trade some reliability for that. So that'd be the big change for me, and that's kind of what some people have gone away from. Mike's is a great build. It's just expensive and heavy because it's got every sort of whiz-bang part that you can have on it. Ryan's is good too. I don't hate the optic, but it's the optic that bothers me more than anything. I think the 1-8, I think Ryan's is pretty good. Although if I was going to SBR, I wouldn't go to 13.7. I would go to 12.5. I would go back farther, because the whole point of 13.7, 13.9 is that you can pin and weld and get away from it. And so
absolutely. And I both of those choices, optic and barrel length, I knew would be controversial. I'll defend myself here in a second.
I guess I could say 13 inches, and then if you're going to run a can or anything, flush with the end of the handguard. I'd consider that. But other than that, that's the only complaint with. I like both of their rifles. I think they'd be good shooters. So yeah, I think that's my final wrap up.
Okay. Yeah, I got Mike's. Like Mark said, it's expensive. If I had the money, I would certainly build a gun like that. Mark's, I have a gun very, very similar to what Mark's describing, and I love it. So no complaints there. Downsides to mine, it's still probably going to be kind of a chunky girl with some of the decisions I made. So for how the size of it, it may be a little on the heavy side. That doesn't bother me. I lift weights. Mark doesn't, so the weight may be a problem for him. I knew the optic would be a little controversial. The 1 to 8's really if anyone did that, they'll probably be happy and not have any problems. Mike was correct. The Trijicon Credo is a 2 to 10. So I think what you gain with some of the medium power is you get a little bit more usable high end on them. So that 8, 9, 10 area is the eye box, everything's a little bit better. The front objective lens is usually a little bit bigger, which has some benefits. So I think those packages kind of offer a little bit that the only thing you're losing is maybe a little bit in the weight department. The 13.7, 13.9, depending on your muzzle, like if you're running a device or chemo like Mike, you can 100% pin and weld and make it non-NFA. So for someone like that, absolutely do that. The Rearden, which is a system I have on basically my 2 QD cans that I own, neither of them have a muzzle device that will take 13.7 or 13.9 to legal length. So that's why I said I'll just have to eat the NFA stuff. But as I said, the 12.5 I have it and it gets that handguard, and there's times I wish it was just a little bit longer. So I know it's a weird length to be making an NFA item, but in my dream fantasy world, that is the length that is the middle ground between everything I'm trying to do. Whenever you do anything compromised, it's good at a lot of things. It's not great at anything. So I wanted a little thicker profile. I still want it short enough that it's maneuverable in tighter situations. So I think that 13.7 maybe that good middle ground. Maybe not. Maybe I'll build one someday and I'll be like, yeah, they're right. I shouldn't.
See, what I think would fix yours with the optic and the short barrel is if you went to either 6 ARC or 6.5 Grendel. Then I would really I think I would be in love with it then. I'd be like, okay, it is kind of that weird do everything, far, close, short, heavy, whatever, it all mixed together with enough punch to make up for that short barrel. When
I hit the lottery, I will build this in 6 max, and let's see if that perfect rifle can get me a win at a running gun. I think it's gonna take more than that, but let's see. That'd be fun. And I agree. That's a medium, a caliber. One of the medium format calibers would probably be a better option. But again, I think that optic, except for weight, I don't know that there's another downside. So if you can deal with the weight or strip it off in some other areas, I think it's fine. So I think medium form or medium power variable optics are probably going to get a little more popular as time goes on because everyone's running top dots. So if you really, really need a 1X, you can do it. But with first focal plane, even with my 1X, kind of true 1X scopes, I still generally run 1.5 to 2 just for various reasons. Like you can shoot just as fast with it. So that's what I would do. You got something to add, Mike, before we...
Yeah, I agree that I think that the industry is really just starting to seriously look at the medium power. I think the Mark V, if they come out with a better reticle, that's going to be a game changer for that. And I'm going to say the exact same thing to Night Force with the NX8, 2.5 to 20, because when you add parallax adjustability to those, it really gives you a better performance at that medium long range, where 5.56 is, with a good match round, is still doing really good work. But parallax starts to be more of an issue with like 1 to 8, 1 to 10, 1 to 6s. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I think probably Primary Arms has something that's got like a bigger horseshoe or something. I've just never really fallen in love with.
Yeah, the 2.5 to 10 is like really, really popular, but I just can't get into their. There's some things about their reticle design I just don't get.
Yeah, to me, they're still trying to appeal a little too hard to the tactical, COOL crowd, and it's like there's stuff in the reticle that I don't need, I don't care about, and when your Christmas tree can feel busy. It took me a little while moving them in matches, and so when you add a bunch of stuff at the peripheral of that, it just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. But I think that we'll see the medium power stuff continue to grow, and I think
only because the industry doesn't have anything else to beat to death.
Yeah, actually, if I get the cabbage in the future, the Athlon makes a 2.5 to 15. I'd like to get it in hand because it may be getting a little on the big side. That may be the only problem with that. Because the 2 to 12 I like. On 2X, the reticle is a little too fine. Like it's almost, if it's not really good light, it's kind of not usable. And the Helios turrets are really tall. I wish those were a little shorter and maybe a little like their Ares. Their Ares turrets are amazing. Yeah. The Helios is it's not amazing.
Yeah. A lot of the first focal plane reticles, they really struggle if you don't have something to really center the reticle quickly in the shooter's field of view from about 1 to 3 to 1 to 4x, depending on the scope. And fine crosshairs won't do it. A not well executed point without illumination is still not going to be there. That's probably the biggest downfall with like the Razor and what, like the NX8, the ATACR 1 to 8, is without illumination, those reticles are just not super useful. Below 3x for like quick target engagement. You pop that illumination on though, and it's like shooting my aim point. It's pretty amazing. So for those medium power ones that a lot of them don't have illumination, or the illumination is not,
it's not great. Yeah,
right. It's not intense enough for like summer or midday shooting. Then they're really going to struggle below that 3 to 4x. But I think we kind of got derailed on optics. So
yeah, well, we could complain about, but yeah, right. First focal plane reticle design is everything. So thanks for hanging with us, everybody. We're going to try to get some more of these out. Hopefully all of our schedules kind of clear up just a little bit, but we just released actually today the Legion, which has been long overdue, and I got a whole list of stuff we want to talk about. Feel free to give us your comments, like what you thought were good about our guns, what you thought was garbage. Like if you think my medium power optic on a gun like that is completely stupid, tell me in the comments, because I'm curious to hear. Maybe you've got an idea that we just didn't think of, and we're going to put it on our next gun we build. So thanks for listening. Feel free to comment and let us know what you want to hear us talk about. So hope to see you out in the range.